Welcome back to the Deep Dive. If you're our resident learner listening right now, you already know we love to take the most complex, rapidly changing topics and kind of distill them down to what actually matters. Today, our mission is an educational masterclass on mastering the 2026 social media marketing landscape.
Specifically, we're looking at the ultimate workflow for cross-posting from TikTok to Instagram Reels.
Exactly. And we have an incredible roadmap for this. We're unpacking a highly detailed 2026 framework developed by Frank Heidenreich. He's a chief marketing officer who has scaled organic social strategies for over 230 companies across 14 countries.
So if you're trying to build a brand or you just want to understand how modern digital marketing actually works under the hood right now, this is exactly where you need to be.
It really is. Because we have to establish a hard truth right out of the gate here.
Yeah, the core problem we are facing in 2026 is that the old playbook is completely dead. Simply downloading a TikTok, opening Instagram, and blindly uploading it to Reels no longer works.
Not at all.
And we know this definitively. Meta's Q3 2024 earnings call laid it out in black and white in the US. Over 60% of Instagram recommendations were coming from original posts.
Wow, 60%.
Right. Instagram's algorithm isn't just a passive feed anymore. It has become incredibly sophisticated at detecting and actively suppressing recycled content.
So our mission today is to figure out how to keep your views up, maintain your speed of content creation, and achieve that critical Instagram native quality so the algorithm actually pushes your content instead of burying it.
Which brings us to a really fascinating distinction from this framework. It completely shatters the myth of the simple cross-post.
Right. The guide argues that what we are really doing when we move a video from TikTok to Reels is a translation.
Yes. If you have to change your opening hook, the density of your text, or the underlying audio to make a video perform on Reels, you aren't cross-posting at all. You're translating.
Think of it like translating a joke into another language.
Yeah.
You can't just run it through Google Translate and swap the words out one for one.
No, the pacing is different. The cultural context is different. You have to completely adapt the delivery for the punchline to land. It's the exact same thing with short-form video across these two platforms.
That translation analogy perfectly captures the friction creators feel. But before you even open a video editor to start translating, you have to look at your operational setup.
You do. The best process for your business entirely depends on what is currently constraining you. You have to identify your bottleneck.
And the source outlines 4 real-world scenarios here.
Yeah. First, you have the solo creator. Their bottleneck is time. They desperately need speed, but cannot afford to look like they're just spamming the exact same file across the internet.
Makes sense.
Second, you have the brand or agency. Their bottleneck is approvals. Every single text change has to go through a manager or a client, which slows everything to a crawl.
I mean, we've all been there.
Oh, absolutely. Third, there's the high-volume publisher who survives strictly on batching content in massive quantities. And finally, the audio-first creator who builds an entire visual aesthetic around specific trending soundtrack.
Okay, that makes total sense in theory, but what does that look like practically?
Yeah.
Say I'm that solo creator. I can't be custom editing every single frame twice. What is the actual workflow I should be using?
This is where you have to choose your operational mode, and there are 3 distinct paths you can take. First is the manual first mode.
For when you need to squeeze every single drop of algorithm juice out of a high-stakes post?
Exactly. You use your original TikTok as the foundation, but you are completely re-editing the first 2 seconds, rewriting the text overlays, and being hyper-intentional about every detail.
Okay, but it sounds exhausting to do every single day.
It is, which is why the second option is the semi-automated mode. This is the sweet spot for most businesses.
Where you batch the annoying parts.
Yeah, you use software to batch the really repetitive parts of the process, like file routing and transcription, but a human still personally sits down to review the hooks, the cover images, and the audio sync.
And the third mode.
The automated mode. This is for moving at absolute light speed, relying heavily on automation tools. But, and this is a massive warning that people ignore, you still must maintain a strict human quality checkpoint before anything actually goes live.
I could see why standardizing just one of those approaches for every single video you make is a massive error.
Huge error.
If you treat a simple behind-the-scenes clip as a manual-first project, you're wasting hours of your life. But if you fully automate a heavily produced educational video without a human checking the final product, you're going to silently hemorrhage views.
Because the Reels algorithm will flag it as non-native and your audience will just scroll right past it. Your strategy has to be fluid based on the importance of the specific piece of content.
Okay, so let's get into the actual video file. You're sitting in your editor. What are we doing to the video itself to beat this algorithm? Let's talk about the very first 1.5 seconds.
The data on this is incredibly granular. On Reels, you actually have to shorten your opening hook by about 0.3 to 0.7 seconds compared to the exact same TikTok video.
Because Instagram viewers just have a different platform intent. They have even less patience.
Precisely. For talking head videos, you need microcuts every 0.8 to 1.2 seconds just to keep their eyes engaged.
And crucially, the why watch, whether that's the problem you're solving, the promise you're making, or the payoff they're waiting for, it must be explicitly stated in the very first sentence. No long preambles.
And that extreme urgency extends right into how you handle your calls to action, your CTAs. Asking for likes or follows immediately in a reel is a terrible idea.
Because they thinks it's an ad, right?
Yes. The Reels algorithm will drop your video's reach almost instantly. And upfront, Follow Me reads as a commercial to the machine learning.
So what's the alternative?
You use a retention CPA right up front. You say something like, watch till the end to see the final result. You keep them watching, deliver the value, and only then, in the final moments, do you hit them with the business CTA.
Which brings up a huge debate I see constantly. The caption conundrum. Do you just leave the burned-in TikTok captions on the screen? Or do you take the time to strip them out and use the native Instagram caption sticker?
The data shows a really fascinating split here. Native Instagram captions actually outperform if your audience is primarily watching with the sound off.
But burned-in, custom-styled captions win when the message of your video heavily relies on rhythmic emphasis and fast visual timing. The native sticker just can't match that.
But if you go the route of burned-in captions, there is a massive trap you have to avoid.
The UI clash.
Exactly. If you just leave your TikTok captions where they natively generate, they sit fairly low on the screen. When you upload that exact file to Reels, those captions will instantly clash with the Instagram user interface, the creator's handle, the audio track info, the description text at the bottom.
It creates this messy, illegible, double-captioned look. It instantly outs your video as a recycled TikTok.
And it looks lazy, which triggers the viewer's instinct to keep scrolling, signaling the algorithm to stop pushing the video.
To prevent that exact scenario, the guide gives a very specific golden rule for your safe zones and cover images. It's called the 80-70 rule.
You have to meticulously keep all of your critical text and the faces of your subjects perfectly centered within the middle 80% of the screen's width and the middle 70% of the screen's height.
Because of how Instagram displays your content, your cover image is doing double duty.
Right. It has to look perfectly framed as a 1.1 square grid tile when someone visits your profile page, but it also has to look proportional as a 9.16 vertical full screen frame in the main feed.
If your text gets chopped in half in the square crop, it screams re-upload. It shatters the illusion that the content was bespoke for that platform.
Exactly.
Okay, so you've nailed the text placement. But what about the actual file you're exporting? Because getting the visuals right won't save you if the video file itself is a technical mess. Let's translate some text specs here. 1080 by 1920 pixels, constant frame rate, and normalized audio loudness.
That audio normalization is entirely about protecting the user experience. If a video's audio is suddenly way too quiet, you have to physically interact with your phone's buttons to turn the volume up.
Or if it comes blaring out at maximum volume, you scramble to turn it down.
Either way, you have just broken the scroll trance. You've reminded the user that they are holding a physical device, and that tiny moment of friction causes them to skip entirely.
Okay, we have to talk about file organization. I know naming conventions sound incredibly boring, but the argument here is that a messy desktop is actually costing you views. It's part of what the industry calls signal hygiene.
Your file shouldn't just be saved as video final version 3. It needs a rigid structure. Something like date_business topic_hookah_TT master.
And then the Instagram version is the exact same, but ends in IG variant.
It sounds pedantic, but it allows you to move fast without accidentally uploading the wrong file and ruining the algorithm's perception of your account.
And this broader concept of signal hygiene requires a brilliant psychological shift from the author. You have to clearly distinguish between what you can actually control and what you cannot mathematically prove.
Yes, people obsess over internet myths like shadow bans. Ignore that. Focus relentlessly on what you can control. Removing TikTok watermarks, erasing residual UI elements, and making sure you aren't reusing exact file titles.
The guide says if you were going to re-upload a winning video, you have to change 3 specific things: the first line of on-screen text, the first caption card, and the visual cadence of the first 2 seconds.
You keep the core essence of the viral video intact, but you completely scrub the digital fingerprints of a repost.
That is such a smart approach. Now, what about the audio trap? Because a lot of smaller creators assume a trend on TikTok automatically translates to a trend on Instagram.
It is a fatal error for your organic reach. If the engagement of your video relies heavily on a trend or popular music, you absolutely must switch to an Instagram library track when you cross-post.
So it registers natively within Meta's own system.
Right. There is a fantastic rule of thumb here. Ask yourself, does this video still deliver its core value with the sound completely muted?
If yes, keep your original audio file. But if the video makes 0 sense without sound, you need to use a native IG track.
Exactly. Give it that necessary algorithmic structure.
Okay, let's say the video is live. How do we maximize engagement without looking spammy? First, structure your written captions tightly value, context CTA. Second, severely limit your hashtags.
3 to 5 highly relevant tags. Do not use a massive cluster bomb of 30 generic ones.
Third, immediately pin a comment addressing the customer's first logical point of resistance to drive conversation. And finally, delay sharing that new reel to your story to catch secondary, higher-intent viewers later.
But everything we just discussed is really just the setup for the most critical educational concept in this entire deep dive.
The feedback loop.
Operating your content strategy as a clinical feedback loop separates the professionals from the amateurs. This process is broken down into 3 highly specific evaluation windows: 1 hour, 24 hours, and 7 days.
Let's put the listener in the driver's seat. You post a video, 1 hour passes. What exactly are we looking for in the analytics?
At the 1 hour mark, you are only looking for stopping power. Did they survive your first sentence?
And if it fails there?
Fix that 0.3 to 0.7 second intro for your next post. Leave the rest alone.
Okay, say it survives that first hour. What happens at the 24-hour mark?
That is your midstream check. You are looking specifically at saves and profile visits. Did they stay for the actual value you promised?
If it stalls at this point, your hook was fine, but your pacing in the middle is dragging.
Yes, so to fix this, revise the body pacing and bring your best evidence forward by 2 to 3 seconds.
And what about the 7-day mark? What if retention is great, but it just isn't reaching new people?
Then you are looking at a virality and reshares problem. At 7 days, you want to see if the video is getting private reshares via direct message. A reshare usually means you solved a specific problem for someone.
If it stalls here, the video isn't the problem, the packaging is.
Yeah.
So you change the cover, rewrite the caption, or pin a better comment.
Right.
But there's also some tough love advice here from the author. If there are no signs of life after a week, walk away. Cut your losses entirely. Doubling down on dead ideas wastes weeks of valuable time for small businesses.
It's hard to accept, but essential for scaling. And speaking of scaling, the golden rule here is automate the boring things, but never the creative things.
Right. Use software for file routing, folder creation, and exports.
Yeah.
But the quality assurance, the creative adaptation to fit those 80/70 save zones, that must remain a deeply human process.
To scale smartly, you need to build a win library. When a post hits those metrics, you meticulously label it. You tag the hook type, the topic, the structure, and the proof style.
Like, was it a problem first hook or a story first hook? A list format or talking head?
Exactly, because once you have that library categorized, your next production day isn't starting from scratch. You are simply making intentional variants of your proven winners.
You stop trying to invent fire every single week, and you just start making different colored matches. Now, if you were listening to this and wondering if all this meticulous algorithm tracking is actually worth it, let's look at the data.
The numbers are staggering. According to the eMarketer Q4 2023 report, average view counts were TikTok at roughly 143,000, IG Reels at nearly 121,000, and YouTube Shorts trailing at about 54,000.
And by Q4 2025, Reels carried a massive 53% of all Instagram ads. Over half of the platform's ad volume is in this one format.
Plus, cross-channel engagement sits at TikTok 4.5%, Instagram 4.0%, and YouTube 2.8%.
The eyeballs and the ad dollars are deeply entrenched in this ecosystem, meaning this cross-posting workflow is essentially the modern marketer's most vital tool.
So to bring this all together, successful cross-posting in 2026 isn't a hack. It is a rigorous system of signal hygiene, respecting safe zones, tailoring the first 1.5 seconds, and running strict 1 hour, 24-hour, and 7-day feedback loops.
It's about consistency.
Reliability and consistency will always beat heroic but sporadic editing.
I think that's incredibly empowering. Before we go, I want to leave you with one final fascinating question to chew on.
Let's hear it.
Think about this. If every single creator and brand eventually perfects this exact formula clipping, exactly zero point 0.7 seconds off introductions, boxing all human expression perfectly into an 80 by 70% safe zone, and ruthlessly cutting anything that doesn't trigger a 1-hour algorithm spike, at what point does the algorithm stop reflecting human attention and start strictly manufacturing human culture?
That is a brilliant point to end on.
We will let you mull that one over on your own. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Keep learning, keep experimenting, and we'll see you next time.